Good evening. Thanks for being here. I'm Troy Charles, and here are your top stories. An influx of COVID cases within the Thunder Bay school system has caused 2 schools to move into virtual-only learning for at least a week. Westgate Collegiate and Vocational Institute and Kingsway Park Public School are going fully virtual after outbreaks were declared at both Southside schools, with more cases detected at each school over the weekend and believed to be from in-school spread. Both schools will spend at least a week with students learning from home starting tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Thunder Bay District Health Unit has confirmed 3 COVID cases associated with St. James Public School, but there is no evidence the virus has spread within the school setting, so it's not being declared an outbreak. The Health Unit has also identified a confirmed case of COVID-19 associated with Pope John Paul II Senior Elementary School. That case includes 1 school cohort at Pope John Paul and 2 bus cohorts, one of which includes students from St. Patrick High School. A case has also been detected at Corpus Christi School. The Health Unit is working to identify close contacts there. The Health Unit also says as a result, strict new protocols are now in place at local schools. Under Ontario's latest COVID-19 screening protocol, if any member of a household shows even 1 symptom, everyone in the household must self-isolate until a negative test result is received or an alternate diagnosis is given by a healthcare professional. And if a test isn't conducted or an alternate diagnosis is not given, a symptomatic individual must self-isolate for 10 days, and all other household members must do so for 2 full weeks from their last contact with the symptomatic individual. Parents are also being told not to allow any children to have any contact with others outside of their household, the exceptions being in-school contact and daycare. Sticking with COVID, the Health Unit reported 29 new confirmed cases Sunday. That brings the active case count to a high of 229 during the pandemic. Of the new cases, 20 were attributed to close contact with a previously identified case. 3 had no known exposure, while a category for 6 others was pending. 27 of the new cases involved Thunder Bay area individuals, while 2 were in unspecified district First Nations. There were 12 district individuals hospitalized with the virus as of Sunday, an increase of 1. 3 of those patients were in the intensive care unit. And a rise in COVID cases for the Northwestern Health Unit continued this weekend as the agency reported 25 new confirmed cases and 7 more probable. The Kenora region continued to drive most of the growth, accounting for all but 1 of the new cases. The remaining confirmed case was in the Rainy River region. There were a record 107 active cases across the Northwestern Health Unit Friday, with 101 of those coming from the Kenora region. Finally, moving on from COVID, with question period returning to Queen's Park this past week, Thunder Bay Atikokan MPP Judith Monteith-Farrell is calling on the Ford government to fund the purchase of more passenger rail cars from Thunder Bay's Alstom plant to protect jobs in northwestern Ontario. Monteith-Farrell says the plant will see further layoffs if the province does not commit to funding new orders for transit vehicles. She also cites the province's need for an economic recovery plan once the pandemic is over, and says the province needs to create more jobs, starting by protecting those jobs at the Thunder Bay plant.
The province can create those jobs in Thunder Bay by committing to order Made in Ontario transit vehicles now. There's been a lot of talk, but not enough action. Meanwhile, hundreds of my constituents have lost their jobs. Why won't this government act now?
We are waiting for that partnership agreement from the federal government, Mr. Speaker. They have said that they would come to the table. In the last election, they said they would come to the table. We're still waiting for them to come to the table and sign off so that we can continue the massive expansion. She is absolutely correct, Mr. Speaker. These types of investments not only benefit local communities, but they benefit the people across the province of Ontario, Mr. Speaker.
The Nature Conservancy of Canada has purchased an island in Lake of the Woods from the city of Kenora. Town Island is located 7 kilometers south of the city, and the land will now be protected from development. But before things can be finalized, the Conservancy must fundraise $2.85 million to officially purchase the island. Avery McRae has that story.
After over a year of negotiations, the Nature Conservancy of Canada and the City of Kenora have come to an agreement for the sale of Town Island. The 202 acres of land purchased by the nonprofit organization will be protected from development and preserved for future generations to enjoy. When the idea of selling the island was first discussed among council, Kenora Mayor Dan Reynard always planned to keep the land untouched.
The goal of the city was always to leave it in its natural state. It's a big tract of property out on the lake. People camp there, people pull up and boat, picnic, swim. So it was important that it remain in its natural. That was always our goal.
It's rare to find 200 acres of connected, intact natural forest. And though Lake of the Woods is a wilderness, there are certainly a lot of development areas. And it was just sort of married with the threat of what could have happened here and the great biodiversity values. It just became an obvious place where we'd want to keep things as they were and make them better if we can.
The NCC will have to raise $2.25 million to purchase the island from Kenora, with the city putting the money into its reserves. The Conservancy will also have to raise an additional $600,000 towards preservation of the land and other costs. The city will chip in $75,000 towards island preservation, and the Conservancy only has until August of 2022 to raise the funds.
So we're really going to be relying on some of our partners and donors on the lake to help us get this one across the finish line.
We'll have to wait and see, but both parties are really confident that the sale will go through in the summer of 2022.
The Nature Conservancy will host a virtual event in March to kick off the fundraising. Donation towards the purchase can be made anytime on the group's website. Ava McCrae, TBT News.
The Thunder Bay Community Auditorium hasn't hosted a live event since a Simon and Garfunkel tribute concert on March 13th of 2020. And with the pandemic continuing to drag on nearly a year later, hope is fading that any shows will return in 2021. But Auditorium GM says optimism for 2022 is sky high among those in the entertainment industry. Michael Mahorovich has that story.
The Thunder Bay Community Auditorium has sat quiet for almost a year, and nights like this have become a distant memory. But they will return. We just have no way of knowing when. Unfortunately, it most likely won't be this year.
As you know, we are always working about 6 months ahead. So in order for anything to happen in 2021, it would require us to get some confirmation or some sort of indication as to what the playing field is going to be like, probably within the next couple of months. 2022
is a different story. Halverson is anticipating that canceled events from 2020, planned events from 2021, and normal 2022 bookings could all come in one massive avalanche, leading to a jam-packed schedule when the calendar flips next January.
Thinking back into 1986 when we first opened the building, I think it's going to be very similar to that, where we had a show almost every second night and people came because they would just wanted to get out and see some things again. And I think we may be in a scenario similar to that.
One thing that will have to end or change before shows can start: social distancing. Following the current 6-foot distancing protocols, the auditorium could only sell 292 of the 1,500 seats. That is just not sustainable.
Social distancing would require us to reduce it down to 292 seats, which would basically eliminate most of the shows that we could do in this building. So with only 1,500 seats, we need to sell them all the time. And obviously, with social distancing protocols, that makes it very difficult to do that.
Halverson revealed that dates for 2022 have already been put on hold, with artists and promoters eager to get back to performing. But for now, nothing is concrete. Michael Mahorovich, TBT News.
The community rink in Conmee underwent some renovations that were completed in mid-January, but because of that cold front our region experienced, not many people were able to use it. Today, families came out to skate, mingle, and enjoy the mild weather. Hot chocolate was provided by the community center, and hot dogs were barbecued by a resident of the town at Conmee's community rink. An isolated roof was added to protect the ice and skaters on it. The mayor of Conmee, Kevin Holland, was in attendance and says there have been several inquiries about using the sheltered space after the winter season is over, such as ball hockey and for a wedding venue, but for now he says residents are loving the skating.
People I spoke to that have used it just love the idea. Community members have been commenting about what a great addition this is to our infrastructure, to our community center, and for opportunities for families to get out and enjoy themselves. You'll see behind me that gentleman's brought his grandchildren out. He's got the barbecue, he's making up hot dogs. And so we're finding that the residents are coming out and making an afternoon of it. And that's exactly what we were hoping for when we decided to move forward with the project.
There are no specific hours of operation for the rink, but the mayor added that the lights are turned off at 11 each night. Avery, how about a final sighting of our friend Mike Mohorovic in his report there? You'll never see him again on these Thunder Bay airwaves. How about the Toronto Raptors?